Mr. Chairman, if I may explain my vote.
Please do, Mr. Farnsworth.
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, listening to the testimony, it obviously, this is always an emotional issue when you're talking about any kind of limitation or discussion about the practice of abortion. In this circumstance, though, I think that most of the discussion and testimony was outside the scope of the language in this bill. And in fact, what this does is simply says that the legislature decides that nurses, that they're not going to be able to determine, this board is not going to be able to determine the scope of practice with regards to abortion. That's certainly legitimate within the purview of the legislature. It is exclusively within the purview of the legislature unless the legislature wants to delegate authority. Therefore, we have the right and, in fact, the obligation, if we think that this is good policy because we want to limit the scope of practice in abortion to physicians, this falls squarely within our responsibility. So notwithstanding the other testimony that we've heard, that's what this bill does. It's limited to that. And I think that it's a good policy, and therefore I vote aye.
The eloquency of Representative Farnsworth astounds me sometimes because he's right on the nail and he hit it. The issue here is not what the position that the board has taken, but the relevancy of their ability to do so. And with that, I vote aye.
Thank you. I quote from the opening page of the Arizona State Board of Nursing's webpage. Welcome. The State Board of Nursing assures that standards of practice are met and that persons engaged in the practice of nursing are competent. It approves individuals for licensure, registration, and certification, approves educational programs for nurses and nursing assistants, investigate complaints concerning licenses compliance with the law, and determines and administers disciplinary action in the event of proven violations of the Nurse Practice Act. Nowhere do I see it determine scope of practice. That is a public policy issue, and in all areas, but especially areas as important and noteworthy as abortion, these decisions should be made by elected representatives such as ourselves. With that, I vote aye.
Please.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that this bill is not about regulating abortion. It's about clarifying that the Board of Nursing is an authority that doesn't have the right to make its own laws, and it's a creation of the legislature. And that authority always has been and should be delegated by the legislature. I also want to note for the record, in response to Representative Patterson's note on whether this is safe, and for the record, I'd like to submit numerous letters from medical doctors throughout the entire state who note that it would not be safe to allow nurse practitioners or other mid-level health care professionals to routinely perform them. And I'd like to submit that to the Secretary for the record. And with that, I vote aye.
I'm going to explain my vote because it's amazing how we can get lost occasionally in what's really occurring before you. And that is simply that we're determining that the legislature does have expressed authority in this area of regulation. And we grant the regulatory authority to whatever agencies or boards that we have out there. And this is pretty plain language. That we accept that authority, and that's the authority that we'll act on, and with that I vote aye.